My name is Deborah Andrus. Everybody calls me Debbie. Deborah is just my grown-up name. And I live in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I teach at Lehigh University and play in the Allentown Symphony. And amazingly, because we just did that great warm-up with Al Woy, I don't have to do a warm-up with you guys. But if you'll have your clarinets out, we're going to go ahead and play together a little bit. I am going to set myself an alarm for 10 minutes so I know that I'm more than halfway done, because I want to leave the last 5 minutes for questions. If you have specific questions, I think you can put them in the chat, but I'm not totally sure if I'll see them, so I'll open the chat at the end. Okay, so since we've already warmed up, I don't really need to have you guys warm up, but the very first thing that we need to have to be able to tongue fast and easily and beautifully, I guess is the good thing to say, is we need to have a great tone. So the couple questions that I ask myself and I have my students ask is my breathing relaxed? So generally when I'm working on tone, oh, if you guys could make sure you're muted, that would be fab. So just double check that you're muted so that the sound doesn't get weird. Okay, so my breathing relaxed. So what I recommend doing before you do the long tone warm-ups, kind of what we were doing with Al Woy, is to breathe out first and then to breathe in. The other component that I want to share, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see me better. The other component that I think really matters is how you breathe when you have your clarinet in your mouth. So when I breathe out, I have my mouthpiece close to my mouth, and we're going to just start with an open G. You all can join me. Breathe out. Then I place my top teeth on the reed and my bottom lip over my teeth, obviously. If you play double lipped, you're going to put both lips over your teeth. And I breathe in through the corners of my mouth, but my top teeth and my bottom lip are stable. What a lot of people tend to do unknowingly is they'll breathe and take their top teeth off the mouthpiece, and that's going to cause some pretty weird things with your articulation. So let's all practice that. Bottom lip over our teeth, top teeth on the mouthpiece. Let's breathe out like a sigh, and then in through those corners, and then play. Nice. All right, Elaine, I'm going to mute you, buddy. There we go. Excellent. So those are just a couple things to keep in mind when you're creating your tone. If you have a good tone, you are going to have a lot better chance at having a good articulation. All right, moving on to the articulation part. The other question I ask myself is my Airstream strong and focused? We want a really fast, like laser beam Airstream through the whole clarinet. And then as Dr. Woy was talking about, E, U, and Ah are the different vowels that we use in playing clarinet. And I lean towards E's and Oo's for good articulation. So here we go. We're going to connect the tongue and the reed. This note right here, we can start with our tongue or we can start with our air. But then in here, we want to use our tongue. What I recommend is using E or 2 for articulation. Ah tends to move your jaw too much. So if you put your hand under your chin and you whisper T, your chin doesn't really move. Now whisper 2, T. And then if you whisper Ta, you're going to notice something different. So your chin moves when you articulate with Ta. So this is not going to be our ideal, and so we would want to not use Ta when we articulate. All right, so make sure you're muted. If you would, take a second to just screen. All right, so we're going to do this open or low G, excuse me, and then we're going to go E, 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 4. Articulation.
Do you want us muted?
Yes, please. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Fantastic. All right, and here's my tonal energy.
You keep breaking up. Either you're moving your head from the mic, I think.
Oh, it's breaking up. Okay, thank you for telling me. Let me double check the clarinet is breaking up or my speaking? Speaking. Okay. Is this better? Give me a thumbs up, or do you need me to turn it down? Everybody's okay? Okay, awesome. Sharing my screen. Here we go. We want to get to this tonguing stuff. So pick T or 2, whatever is best for you. And we're going to do this whole thing. Right here, you're establishing your tone, and then we're going to tongue on that tone. I'm going to put it on 4/4 just so that it's simple, and we're going to go around 100. Whoa, that was scary. Sorry. All right, so I'm going to count 3, 4, 1, 2, and then we're going to play right here. 3, 4, 1, 2. Nice. Now, we're going to do it again, but this time we're going to use a legato tongue, which is D or do. So all we do is replace this T, the letter T, with a D or a do. So we'll do the same thing again. Try it with a legato tongue. So 3, 4, 1, 2. Beautiful. So you can experiment with T or 2, D or do for both of those styles of tonguing. And the one other question that I like to ask is, am I using an attack on the reed or a release? And I'm just going to demonstrate that really quickly. I use that first half note to kind of work on that. An attack would be, and I'm going to use open G, would be where I'm really using a very strong tongue and I'm attacking the reed. A release is a little bit different. With a release, I'll set my embouchure like we did a little bit ago. I'll place my tip of my tongue on the tip of the reed, and I'll blow my air, and then I'll just take my tongue off. So one of my favorite quotes is from Howard Klug, and he says, in order to have good articulation, you need a fortissimo airstream and a pianissimo tongue stroke. So if you would like to try that with me, I'll demonstrate it with my finger, but set your embouchure. So your top teeth are on the mouthpiece, bottom lip on the reed. You're going to place your tongue on the reed. Bring in a little air through your corners. Blow, but don't let anything happen. Oh, somebody's not muted. Stephen, I'm going to mute you, my friend. There we go. All right. You're going to blow, but you're not going to take your tongue off. So it almost feels like you're going to pass out. Then take your tongue off. That is a release like this. So embouchure, tongue on the reed, blow your air, release. And I'll demonstrate that. So it has a lot more relaxed, beautiful sound. And so that half note at that exercise number 2 is your opportunity to practice that release on the very first note. Now we're going to move on to clear and bouncy tonguing. What I like to talk about here is that we have our T, right? Either T or 2, whatever you pick. But then here, when I get the bouncy tonguing, which I call my 16th notes, I'm going to do 2D articulation. So if you're doing T, you're going to use D here. If you're using 2, you're going to use do here. So let's whisper it. Now let's whisper it as 2. Ready? Go. So T, T, D, D, or T, or 2, 2, do, do. All right, so we're going to use my 2, 4, and we're going to continue. We're going to go a little slower this time. Let's go 80, just so that you guys can join me. I have 1 minute to finish this part, so here we go. I'll give you 2 measures. 1, 2, ready? Yep, if you guys can make sure you're muted. Oh, there goes my timer. Woohoo. So I'm going to give myself 5 more minutes and then we will take our questions. Okay. Yeah, the yellow print on the page, I was being silly. So sorry about that. I'll probably change it to black and white when you guys, when it's shared so that you can download it. All right. So moving on to the next portion of our getting faster and easier tonguing. The biggest thing I would love for you to take away from this is that the air drives the tonguing. The tongue doesn't drive the tonguing. The air drives the tonguing. So air and tone are our number one, no matter what exercise we're playing. So if you have trouble with attack in the sense of you tend to go too hard, then I would use this half note here that we did earlier. You can add this to any portion of this exercise. So if you're having trouble with attack, you can put an open G just before this. I'm going to unannotate so that that goes away. But anyway, so we're going to move on here. So as I mentioned earlier, we're starting with a T. So you can do that release articulation if you're comfortable, or you could also start it with just your air. And how that would sound is just, and then you would use your tonguing after that, starting right here. So either adding a half note, or you can just start this one with your air. But then here, T, D, 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 T, or 2, do, 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 2. So we use that nice bouncy D to get us through those 16th notes. Essentially what I'm getting at is when you guys play 16th notes, I would not try to play them short. We want to use our air all the way through so it supports our tongue and helps it to go fast. It's almost like lift in an airplane. All right, let's try this one now. So we're going to be at 80 again. If this is too fast, you can go slower. I mean, I've had students work on this all the way down to 50 actually to get the clarity of their articulation. We're going to play it just as written, T, T, D, 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 T, or 2, 2, do, 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 2. Whatever works better for you. I'm going to do 2 this time. I'll give you 2 measures. 1, 2, ready? Steven, I'm going to mute you, my friend. All right, good. So I will stop sharing only so that it'll erase and I won't have to make it go again. We are almost to steps 6 and 7, and I'm going to get done in time, which is super exciting. All right, so there's our 5. So I think repeated note tonguing, the note where you're tonguing on the same note, first is a really important skill, and I would go faster and faster, and then slow it back down again so that we can add in some scale patterns, because steps 5, 6, and 7 go together. First, we have to play the scale patterns evenly, and then we need to play them with the tonguing. So I'm going to demonstrate this at 72. And notice that now we're not starting with our quarter note anymore. But if you needed to, if, for example, attack is a problem for you, add a half note before you do this exercise. So I'm going to demonstrate it with that. So I'm going to do an air release on the half note, but then I'm going to start using my bounced articulation, T, D, 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 T, right here, and go all the way across. The key is when you get to the scale part, you stay with the metronome. You don't rush, because the fingers sometimes are easier to move than the tongue, and we want to make sure we stay nice and even. So we're going to add a half note here. So I'll give you 3, 4, 1, 2. 3, 4, 1. Excellent. And what you want to make sure to do is a nice clear T or 2 here, 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 and here. Now I'm going to move on to this one, which is now we're going to do the same exact thing, except we're going to do slur 2, tongue 2. So remember my favorite thing, we're going to add 2 D's right here. So it'll be T, D, D, T. And if you remember, we did that in step 3 or step 4, I think. So we'll do a T here, but T, D, D, T, T, D, D, T, or 2, do, do, 2, 2, do, do, 2, whatever works better for you. Adding a half note here again, because we want to make sure our tone is going all the way from the beginning to the end. Okay. Be quiet, little thing. We're almost done. All right, here we go. I'm going to give you 3, 4, 1, 2, and we will do a half note before number 14. 3, 4, 1, 2. So as you can tell, I'm trying to make my tone continuous all the way through my slurring and my tonguing. Last step, here we are. Half note again, just to get us started. And then we're going to do the same articulation on our repeated note tonguing over here, T, D, 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 T, and then T, D, 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 T. And we've already worked on our evenness by practicing it slurred right here. And so we're going to get it all the way across with amazing, amazing tone. Do, 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 do. Okay, last thing. Here we go. I'll give you 3, 4, 1, 2. 3, 4, 1, 2. Excellent. All right, so I will unmute, and it probably, I have to check with my people to see. There we go. I'm just gonna see if I get a chat telling me. Okay, we are good. So if anybody has a question, if you could unmute yourself so I can see you, that would be great. And I'll take questions until we have to get out of here.
Hello, I was wondering if you could describe the difference between the connecting lines. How do we know if they're slurring or if they're phrasing?
Oh, that's a great question. So what I have done on this handout is anything that is slurred is going to be slurred. It's not a phrasing thing. My idea is that the phrase goes all the way across. So we're kind of aiming for that last half note. Does that answer your question, Lee? Okay, sweet. Who else? Make noise. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
Okay, quick question.
Yeah.
When you hear a really good clarinetist playing in the higher register and they're tonguing, the clarinet notes have a bell-like quality.
Yes.
How do you get that?
That is a fantastic and huge question. So the quick and dirty is to that release tonguing. So I didn't actually share this, but I am going to give this in the handout. So it actually covers it down here. Released articulation techniques. And it talks about it where you want to get the clearest tone with a beautiful release. And this, if your tone is beautiful in the sense of focused and you can get that without tonguing on a G sharp, for example. Oh, I have spit in my G sharp key, but I was just using my air. I wasn't using my tongue at all. If you can get a beautiful tone that sounds clear without tonguing, then you're on the right track and you can practice it. And this handout talks about getting you all the way to that point in the clarion register. Does that help, Peter? It's like a very quick answer to your very complex question.
I'll let you know in about 6 weeks.
Perfect. That sounds great.
Where is the handout?
Oh, so Jessica is has shared it, I believe, on the ICA website. But I will also put it in the chat of today's extravaganza if you can dig it out that way. If I put it just in the chat of this room, I don't think that everybody will be able to access it.
I asked this question on chat, but are you going to have the T's and D's on the notes that we download at the end?
No, but I can put them on there. Would that be helpful?
I think so.
Okay, sure. So I'll put those on before I share it again. I'll try to do that in the during Michelle's masterclass. So Candalee, you'll be able to get the handout, but I will put the T's and D's on. It's on the 3rd page, but it is not on the first 2 pages.
I didn't get anything to print out prior to the session.
Correct. I didn't share it until during the session. So Jessica at the ICA has it, and it will be available on the website, I believe.
Okay.
I have a question that I'd like to ask about whether or not you have any comments about the placement of the tongue on the reed. I started playing with the tongue hitting the reed farther back, and I'm slowly moving to kind of a tip-to-tip tonguing now,
Right.
which is a real challenge.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So I actually really have my students try, when they're working on that, for example, switching from a more lower back of the tongue versus the tip, this release exercises, doing it on the barrel and the mouthpiece only, right here, and setting your tongue, blowing your air, and releasing cleanly. If you can do it on the barrel and mouthpiece, then you move to doing it on a high G sharp. And you can hear so much clearer in the clarion register than you can in the Shalumo register where I was working today. So when you're working to fix something very specific like that, I really recommend that you use the upper notes rather than the lower, so you can hear and feel when it's correct or when it's incorrect. Good. I'm glad that helped. We still have time.
Debbie, may I ask a question?
Of course.
How long would you expect somebody to take to improve their speed of articulation? For example, I am struggling to stay at 120 16th notes at 120 quarter notes per minute, but that's it with the wind behind me. Now, I've read that a good player should be able to get to 140, perhaps even 150. How long would you expect that to take with somebody with my gray hair?
You know, I have to tell you that just in the last 6 months, I discovered this exercise called the Jenna, and I posted it at the bottom of the 2nd page of what we were working on right here. Joseph Jenna has a very specific set of exercises to speed up your tongue. And if you follow it exactly, I have several students over 60 years old who are now getting closer to the 140 to 160 goal. My exercises will work as well, but the Jenna is very specific, and he wants you to practice it in specific bursts. It's almost like weightlifting. And so I highly, highly recommend that you check that out. And I think it's very inexpensive. I can't tell you where to buy it, but I've found it to be immensely helpful to me and my students.
I have a question.
Yes. Hey, Tom.
The concept of skeletal muscle fibers, do you deal with long fiber versus short fibers, the inherited features of that?
I do not. I actually don't know anything about that. You mean in the sense of
People
your tongue?
inherit the ability to tongue fast.
Oh, gotcha.
And that has to do with the structure of the muscle fibers. And some people, such as myself, cannot tongue fast, in spite of being a reasonably good player otherwise. And I've had colleagues and friends that I watch tonguing fast that it's almost unbelievable. It looks like flute double tonguing. I've seen people on a clarinet tonguing, single tonguing, that's just impossible to imagine.
Yeah,
do you ever deal with that when trying to encourage someone to tongue faster?
So I have generally been able to get my students to at least get to 120, which is sort of like an excellent single tongue. And the students that have really, 2 minutes, we're going to go back. So The students that have challenges with either the size or the width of their tongue, I've had actually work on double tonguing earlier than I would have other students, because it's really the only way that they can get faster than that 120 mark. The other thing that I've played with some students, and I don't know anything about the skeletal and the muscular, but I just know that sometimes using double lipped embouchure to open the mouth more occasionally can help, but often if somebody gets stuck at that place, then I do have them work on double tonguing. I don't know if that answers your question, Tom, but
I guess, can one actually double tongue with a clarinet?
yes.
Maybe that's what I should learn.
So that's the thing. Take a look for a video by Robert Spring. He teaches people directly how to double tongue, and it's on YouTube, and it is awesome, and it works because I've done it myself and taught it.
I'll look it up. Thank you.
Do. All right, I think I have time for one more question if anybody has any. Otherwise, I will say thanks for being in my room, and I hope you guys will all get it, the handout, but I will put the T's on. Thank you. I think they're going to just take us back. Yes, Keith says doo-goo. I say doo-goo or tuku. So Tom, for me, tuku works better because that K is a crisper hit to the top of my mouth when I'm using double tonguing. And practice it on your barrel and mouthpiece to start also. If you can make it sound good on there, then you can transfer to the clarinet. I think we should be just about, they're going to just slurp us out of here. But if anybody else has a question, let me know.
Just a little beginner question here. The double tonguing means that you tongue the reed and the back of your mouth?
You tongue the tip of the reed for the tu, and then the ku, you tongue the roof of your mouth. Yes.
Okay. Well, this is what I started tonguing, always in the back of my mouth, until I figured, oh no, I should hit the reed.
Yes. And I've had a couple people that have had that problem, but it's great that you're kind of redoing it. And hopefully this handout will give you some more things to play with.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, guys. See you later. I am Deborah Andrus. I live in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I teach at Lehigh University and play in the Allentown Symphony. And I'm super excited to be here. Michelle and I co-host this ICA Clarinet Enthusiast Committee, and we are so thrilled to see so many people visiting with us today. This is just amazing. Okay, so if you remember, at the beginning of the day, we did a little warm-up with Al Boy. But now it's been a while since we played our clarinets. So we are going to do a quick warm-up with great tone. I'll be sharing my screen so that you can see. And I have to put my pillow back under me. Hang on one second. So go ahead and get your clarinets ready. And my chair is a little too short, so I put pillows on it, both for comfort and for height. There, now I can see you. You can see me. Excellent. And so I'm going to put my metronome on. And we're going to just do a quick G major scale. And as Kathy was talking about, relaxed breathing, I always like to breathe out right before I breathe in. So just a couple sighs, that kind of thing. All right, let's see, get my tuner / metronome open. So we're going to do this at 72, and I'll give you 4 beats. And if you guys have questions, put them in the chat and I will absolutely address them as we go. And if you can make sure that you are muted, anybody that's joining us now, if you can mute yourself, that would be fantastic. All right, we're going to start here with G major. And as we talked about earlier too, we need to have a fast, strong, and focused Airstream to get our best tone. And then we want to think about whether we want E or oo or ah. For this exercise, I would recommend E or oo, but you can just play with your best sound. That's perfectly fine. Let me double check. I'm going to stop sharing because I think there's a couple people that might be unmuted unintentionally. Where is it? I hear something. Alrighty. Can't see it. I can just hear it. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Somebody's unmuted. Well, we'll just deal with it. All good. All right, here we go. I'm going to share my screen again, and we are going to play. All right, so we're starting here on G major. I'll give you 4 counts, and we will play down to here. Then we're going to take the time here to breathe out and in again, and then we'll play back up again. So everybody do a nice breath out. Here we go. And then we'll breathe in for 4 counts and play. Breathe in. Good. I'll stop the metronome. You should feel like, oh, wow, I played the clarinet again. Yay. Now we're going to breathe out for 4. And then when I push the metronome, we'll breathe in during this rest for 4 and play on the way up. If you didn't like your tone or your reed felt funny, go ahead and make an adjustment. And then let's use our very best forte tone going up right here. Okay. Breathe out. Breathe in. Okay, so that is just my quick and dirty warm up to get us going so that we can really start to work on tonguing. The key for me is creating a good sound is always step 1. Okay, now we're going to work on connecting the tongue to the reed. So I'm going to jump right to using attack versus release, and I'm going to stop sharing. When I hear a student on an open G that maybe gets this sort of sound when they start playing. That's obnoxious, I know, but it's the tongue is attacking the reed. What I really like to talk about is how we can release the tongue from the reed. So my favorite quote is from Howard Klug, and he talks about great articulation has fortissimo air and pianissimo tongue. So we start the note with our tongue. We're going to blow our air and just gently take our tongue off. So our air is blowing really fast, but our tongue can come off gently like this. Instead of that strong attack. So I love to talk about release. This note where I'm going to share again, because of course I stopped sharing and then was like sharing with myself. Okay. So the other thing I want to talk about is using ta, ti, or tu. With this, take your hand and put it underneath your chin. And I'd like you to whisper 3 twos. Whisper. Your tongue is kind of hitting the roof of your mouth. What happens when we play clarinet is we replace the roof of our mouth with the reed. Put your hand under your chin again. We're going to whisper 3 T's. Ready? Go. T, T, T. Tu and T, I think, are the optimal articulation syllables for clarinet. I want to do ta next, which a lot of students learn as their first way of articulating. But unfortunately for clarinet, it moves your jaw too much. So let's do 3 whispered tas. Ready? Go. Ta, ta, ta. Now let's do T, 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 tu, 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 ta, ta, ta. 1, 2, ready, go. T, 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 tu, 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 ta, ta, ta. So your chin moves when you do ta. That's why I think it's the least desirable. Basically, I like tell everybody ta is evil. Don't use it. So pick T or tu, whatever's more comfortable for you. And now we're going to play this exercise using the tip of our tongue to the tip of the reed. And we're going to do it in 2/4 time, right? No, 4/4. Okay. So I'm going to give you 3, 4, 1, 2, and then we're going to start right here on this open G. Your job is to pick one way to articulate across this whole thing, either T or tu. And we're going to use this note to get our tone going. Here we go. 3, 4, 1, 2. was too slow. I'll change the tempo. Sorry. So let's do it a little faster. Same exact thing. If you used T this time, please choose 2. And if you used 2, please choose T. Let's go faster. 3, 4, 1, 2. Oh, that was much better. Not too slow. Now, the other way that we can articulate, I call the T tonguing. T or 2 is my clear articulation. When I do legato articulation, I use a D or a do. So same principle, right? We're going to just touch the reed in the same spot. It's just going to be more gentle. So if you whisper T, T, T versus T, 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 the D is more gentle. So we're going to do this whole thing across, and I think we can afford to go faster, y'all. So we're going to go 112. So let's do the same exact thing again, but this time we're going to do the D, 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 or do, 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 do. You choose. Here we go. 3, 4, 1, 2. Excellent. So this D articulation is very necessary for this next exercise. So the document I posted in the chat, it has T's and D's written underneath this. For now, I will just give you a quick and dirty explanation. I'm going to use a T for my quarter note. I'm going to use a T for my first eighth note. But in order to get these 16ths to bounce nicely, I'm going to use 2 D's. So if you're using T, then obviously you'll use D. So T, 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 all the way across. And your air is the most important thing. Okay, calm down there, little clock. So I'm going to give myself 7 more minutes so I have time to answer questions at the end. So we're going to do this now, and I'm going to slow the tempo down because this is a little bit trickier. And we are in 2-4. If nobody has, I don't know if people know, but Tonal Energy is like the most amazing app. I love it so much. So I can switch things so quickly from 4-4 to 2-4. It's the best. Okay, so I think you guys remember that we had that half note. I'm going to add it here. So this is a half note G. Can you tell? No. But we're going to add a half note. Why? Because we want to get our tone going before we start articulating across this whole thing. And remember, you're going to choose either T, D, D or 2, do, do. And you just do the D's on the 16ths, which will help propel you to the next one. Remember that fortissimo air. We will do 4 beats for nothing and then start right here on our half note G. 1, 2, ready. Nice. So let's go a little bit faster just so you can see how this really helps to kind of get your air and your tongue to work together. Now, I'm going to caution you, fast, fast air. If you were totally comfortable with your T, T, D, D, try 2, 2, do, do, and just see what happens to the tone, what happens to the articulation. Same thing, 4 beats for nothing, and then we'll play our low G. 1, 2, ready. Excellent. So now I'm going to stop sharing only because I need to clear that all off. And then we're going to go to the next step, which is to speed up our repeated note tonguing. So I call that bouncy tonguing the D's. I always teach tonguing on 1 note at a time before we start to do scales. So we're going to use the same principle of T and of our added half note. Pretty sketchy looking. When we get to here, the downbeat will be a T, but the consequent notes, or the notes that are kind of moving toward the next measure, are going to be Ds. Again, it's up to you, T, D, 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 or two, do, do, do. And we're going to continue it all the way across. I'm going to do it slowly the first time, and then we're going to do it faster. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I'm doing everything in one breath if possible. This may not be possible for everybody, and I totally get that. So you take a breath where you need it, but take a full breath. Don't take a, oh my gosh, I need to breathe really quickly because this is a fast speed. So for example, if I was going very slowly, I'll just show you how I would do it if I was going to do it with 2 breaths. 72, done. Okay, so I would do breathe out for 2, in. I would stop, breathe out, and I would start again on the measure I left off on, which is here. Because I don't want to feel uncomfortable or like that I'm going to pass out, that kind of thing. So if you are going slowly, you may need to take a breath. Take a breath wherever you stop, but then start over on the measure you stopped on. I hope that makes sense. But we will not go that slow. So let's go at 88. And this all is just for example, but everyone can take their best fast tempo and then move it faster. That's kind of the idea of this. All right, repeated note tonguing, 2 measures for nothing or 4 beats. And then we're going to do this half note. If you feel like this is a good challenge for you, breathe out for 2 and in for 2. So I'm going to say that when we do it. Here we go. Breathe out, breathe in. Nice. So the couple key things here, I'm going to stop sharing and reshare again. I guess I don't need to tell you that, but I'm going to do it. So coming back to number 1, what really matters is that we're taking the tone and the air and the breathing from step 1 and connecting it all the way through. So if you don't have good tone and fast air, the tonguing is not going to work. So that's where that whole like fortissimo air, pianissimo tongue really matters. The other thing I wanted to point out is that the D's that we did up here, right? We practiced through with T's and then we practiced through with D's or do's. When you get to the clear and bouncy tonguing, 16th notes are better legato than staccato. That's why I teach the T, T, D, D, T concept. When we get down here, T, T, D, 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 T. It's both a musical and a physical thing because as the air blows, the tongue actually needs to be lighter to go fast. So that's a really huge component of this is your tone is going. Now, in step 4, and even in step 3, we don't need to put that half note ahead of time. So if you're good and you don't need that half note to establish your tone, you can just start right on here. However, the thing I would like to caution you with is that you want to make sure that you are releasing that note rather than attacking it, right? So we want to do. So I'm going to explain that a little further before we go on. Release articulation, and I do have a handout on it. I'm just going to cover it like physically showing you, and then you guys, I'll show you the handout in a minute. So a couple things. One is when we're establishing our tone, we want to make sure that our top teeth are on the top of the mouthpiece or your top lip if you play double lipped. Bottom lip is on the reed. If we do that and we breathe out, okay, little timer, calm down. Breathe out. We want to breathe in through our corners, keeping our top teeth and our bottom lip stable. Oftentimes when people play clarinet, they kind of go like this. they breathe and kind of grab the mouthpiece with their embouchure at the same time. I like to separate it. So my embouchure is set, and I'll breathe out through these corners, kind of an open breath. I'm going to breathe in through the corners. Then I'm going to set my lips around the mouthpiece. The other thing I'll do when I set my lips is I place the tip of my tongue to the tip of the reed. That's the optimal clarinet place. Not everybody does that. Some people use the middle of their tongue. Some people tuck the tip of their tongue behind their teeth, and the middle of their tongue touches the reed. The most important thing is where you touch the reed. If you touch it too low, you're going to get the splia effect. So if your tongue is touching too low on the reed, AKA kind of touching your lip instead of just touching the tip of the reed, you will have that sort of dramatic noise. It'll sound like everything is an attack in a way. When you do the release method, which is breathe out, breathe in, set your top lip and your top teeth and bottom lip, close your lips, place the tip of your tongue on the tip of the reed, blow your air. Your tongue is just hanging out here. You're going to blow your fortissimo air, and then all you do is take your tongue off. So here's an example with open G. 3 minutes. Okay. So when you do that and you place the tip of your tongue on that reed, blow your air really fast so you can feel that air in your mouth, and then release. So going back to my handout, because I want to get through this before we're done. Right here, you could work on just releasing that note that way and then tonguing on your tone. We are going to do the same thing we've done before, and we're going to add the half note here, because notice step 5, we're starting right with the TDDDs. So here's our T, and then we have 3 Ds. And then we're going to do another T here. Now we're getting to changing note tonguing. We're going to first make sure that we can be perfectly even in these scales with our fingers. What happens often to coordinate tonguing is that we end up, I better put my other Ds in here. We end up tonguing and blowing differently depending on the scale versus the repeated note tonguing. I want you guys to think of the same thing we did before. The air is taking us from beginning to end, and we're just bouncing our tongue on that reed. So put you back to 4/4, and we'll do 88, which is kind of a moderate tempo. I'll count off 3, 4, 1, 2, and we'll play this half note. 3, 4, 1. Then, since we have to go fast, I'm going to jet on to the next thing. I have to stop sharing because the annotation doesn't let me do it, and then I will go back. All right. Great. So if you notice right here, we're going to do slur 2, tongue 2. It's going to be feeling the exact same way this did. T, T, D, D, T, except we're going to do T, T, D, T, T, D, D, T. So our Ds are going to be on those 16th notes. So our T is here. Our Ds are on those 2 16th notes. Same thing. Let's play at 88 again, and I'll give you 3, 4, 1, 2. We'll play our half note beforehand. 3, 4, 1, 2. Okay, if we're playing evenly and we can tongue all that, then all we have to do is jump down here, and this will all be T, D, 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 T, exactly like our version right here. Okay, 4 seconds. Here we go. 3,